Creating things has always been a passion of mine. My family is full of artists, so I've been able to see paintings and drawings plastered over our walls, and it's really encouraged me to forge my own path into the art world. But one of the coolest things I was ever introduced to in the art world was definitely pottery. I learned that in my high school art class, and it was super exciting. I got to learn how to throw on a wheel and make mugs, pinch pots, poles, plates, all those fun things I got to learn how to make. But today I understand that going behind the wheel can be really intimidating and frightening because I was very much afraid when I started. But I'm going to explain how to make a mug and show you that it's not scary, that it's not intimidating, and I'll explain the materials we'll need to be successful as well as some of the anatomy of a potter's wheel to kind of get us started. So let's begin. Let's try to make a mug. So first, what exactly is throwing and how do you do it on a potter's wheel? What is this? So throwing on a potter's wheel is when potters try to make objects such as bowls, plates, mugs, as I've previously mentioned, on a wheel. So there is what we call a bat. It is a circular device on the wheel where we will put our clay so we're able to keep it still. And this will help us mold our clay creation as we go forth into making our mug. And there's also a pedal, so we can increase and decrease the speed of our wheel. So that's basically the anatomy of a wheel, very simple. But before we actually begin to go on it, we must discuss what materials we'll need. So first off, we need clay. There's various types of clays we can use, but we're going to be discussing stoneware clay. It is very durable and malleable for our beginner artists. This is my favorite type of clay. I very much enjoy using this, and it's super easy to use. So we'll also need a water bowl so we can make sure that we're able to dip our hands into the water and make our clay moist. We need to have that. It is essential to make a mug because we need to be able to mold our clay into the mug. And as well as like aprons and towels. Those things, we don't really want to get messy. This is a very messy art skill, so it is important to have like an apron and some towels. So now that we have our limited supplies and very basic supplies, we're gonna get down to business and talk about how to make our mug. So we'll get about a third of a chunk of clay. It's not much, it's small, that's exactly what we'll need to make a mug about this size. We'll also need a little slab of clay on the side to make the handle. But first, we need to knead the clay to make sure all the air bubbles are out. Having air bubbles is not acceptable to have. Having these little airtight sockets in the clay could risk explosion in the kiln. We do not want that. So we'll knead the clay kind of like how we knead dough to make bread. And then we'll be ready to put it on the wheel. We'll roll it up in a ball, slap it on our bat, and start pushing on the pedal to stir it and get it wet. We'll move it up and down in a cone, like putting the pressure, making it a cone, and then pushing back down. This is called centering. Centering is essential because it distributes the weight of the clay all around, and it also ensures that there's no air pockets in the clay. So once we have centered our clay, we will poke a hole in the middle, start to pull back slowly, and pull up the clay towards the air, towards the sky. And this is called making walls for our mug. We will need to have the wheel extremely slow, very slow to pull up the walls. So once we're satisfied with how it looks, the clay, the wall should be about half an inch thick, not much more, because we need to make sure that it will be able to fire in the kiln, but any less than will make it too fragile and it will fall apart in the kiln. So once we have our base, we will take a small wiring tool and cut the bottom off the bat so we're able to put it in the kiln, and we'll also make a little slab of clay on the side to make our handle. So, but it's not exactly functional right now. What else do we do? We'll wrap it up and paint it with glaze. And after we've picked the color that we'd like, we will put it in the kiln. It'll be about 200 to, well, 2000 to 2100 degrees. It is very hot, be extra careful. And we'll put that in there, wait for it to be done, and voila, we have made our mug. There are many forms of pottery. Like, what can we take away from this small lesson? There are many forms of pottery. There's various materials that we can use. It is commonly used to make mugs, bowls, plates, and other functional things on the wheel. We have to be prepared with several materials before we even go toward the wheel. But even though it may seem complicated to make a mug, like centering, pulling up clay, and distributing the clay evenly through centering, stoneware clay is super pliable and malleable for us to use as beginners. And seeing what we make at the end of the day is so rewarding. We're able to see this and be so proud of our clay creation. And it really does encourage us to start something new. So I'm hoping that this little lesson on how to make a mug inspires you to go out and try pottery.